Hey, welcome to this one today. Intergenerational wealth. If we want it, we need to do some things right now. And in this video, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. If you're interested in wealth, not just for yourself, but for your children and their children and so on and so forth, then this one today is for you. Hope you enjoy.
You are listening in to the Everyday Investor Podcast, and I'm Darcy Ungaro. Business, shares, crypto, property, precious metals, and managed funds. It's not about the tools, though. It's about the dream and how much risk you're willing to take along the way. I'm aiming for a healthy margin above an average result for myself, my family, and the people I work with. If you're an everyday person, then please join me. The Everyday Investor Podcast thanks past, present, and future partners of the show. Special mention to Ungaro & Co. for financial advice, Gorilla Technologies for strategic IT solutions, and Icehouse Ventures for investment into Kiwi tech startups. Check out the show notes, subscribe to the fortnightly newsletter, say hello on the socials, and leave a 5-star review. But most importantly, remember, this isn't advice. If you need that, reach out to me or contact your current financial advisor for input. Thanks for joining me on this one. Let's make a start.
Now, if you're a parent, especially the greatest investment that I think you're ever going to make, and this is certainly how I look at this, is in our kids. I take my role pretty seriously as a father, as seriously as I can, and I have to obviously balance out other things in my life. I'm sure you have your views on parenting, so I don't want to step on anyone's toes in this one, but as it relates to our time and our money, whenever we exchange our present value for a promise of a better amount of value or a better return in the future, we're investing. Sometimes it's done with money, and sometimes it's done with our family, like in spending time with them. And if we all agree that we want more out of life than what we put in all the areas, then I think it's a good idea to join forces in a way and make this whole thing about a perpetual thing, a part of your family culture in the future that's not strictly about money. It's about wealth in its broadest definition. So in this episode, I'm going to be talking about how to send money generationally. I think a lot of people, when they invest, they believe that they're gathering up something that's going to last forever. And then maybe they're disappointed when they actually die and realize that, okay, you can't actually bring it with you. So on the topic of intergenerational wealth, it's really easy to kind of connect to that because you really are actually doing everything that you can to make sure that your wealth does in fact last forever and in fact grow through time. So I've learned though that as much as it's about building up resource, it's also about preparing that vessel. Like if you want to leave your kids an inheritance at some stage in the future, you're kind of giving them a loaded weapon. So you really want to teach them how to handle it before they get to access it. So it's about preparing that vessel. It's about teaching them how to behave in the world to a certain extent and how to behave around money and how to use it as a tool rather than become a servant to it. And my objective here in this one today with you here is that I just want to get you thinking about wealth that can move from generation to generation. If you do want to give your kids some sort of financial assistance, then why not put some sort of framework around how you would like that to play out in the future? One of the ways I look at this is it's just pure and simply an insurance strategy. I want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can so that the wealth that I'm placing into the future is actually preserved for the future and not consumed by people making really dumb financial decisions with it. Now, with so much that we can't control in the world, this is one area that we can influence for the better. Now, I'm not perfect. I'm definitely not a perfect parent, that's for sure. But I try, just like you probably try as well. So do take everything today with a massive grain of salt. Think critically about my ideas and only walk away with some of the positives that you think you can run with. So going back 14 years ago, with a little help from my wife, of course, probably quite a bit of help, we started to produce our own children. And at the time of recording, we are the proud owner of 3 awesome children under the age of 14. And if you're anything like me, you may agree that when we think about the future, kind of gives us a little bit of hope, a little bit of excitement, but also a whole lot of anxiety. The future is going to look a whole lot different to the present. That seems to be the reality that we're going to see. I believe that AI and robotics combined together will really make the world very, very different. Why bother then with the degrees? Why bother with collecting and storing information in our brains, especially when you're competing with machines? Everything's going to change, and it's going to be hard to see how and really tricky to speculate when this is all going to play out. That's okay, because if you're playing the long game with preparing your kids for the future, you need a while for this to actually be real. According to the Williams Group study, which will be linked to in the notes, 70% of family wealth is lost by the second generation, and 90% of wealth is lost by the third generation. Reasons behind this include a lack of financial education, makes sense, poor communication about money, so methodology and content, and not being prepared for a changing world. When I first became aware of this study, which probably would have been a couple of years ago, preparing for a previous podcast, I was really surprised. And then eventually I started to just think about this entire wealth thing as more than just about retirement for some people. And maybe it could be like that for me as well. Maybe it's actually more about our family and what parts of our family we would like to see amplified and continued in the future. The greatest investment that you're ever going to make is, if you're a parent, going to be in your kids. And any time or money spent on children can legitimately be referred to as an investment. All investing is going about collecting a gain that's greater than the input that was required. Works in money, works in relationships, health, and of course, family as well. And intergenerational wealth, therefore, kind of was really natural for me to talk to my clients about, but also to try to implement in my own home. Now, it all starts with preparing for the future, the changing world. You're never going to pick the future correct, of course, but parts of building wealth culture in your children's lives will involve speculation around the state of culture in the future. You kind of need to speculate a little bit about what the future is going to look like to really prepare your kids well. The dystopian version, well, that's sure to cause a little bit of trauma if you really unleash on some of the theories out there. But some sort of carefully curated discussion around a range of scenarios can be really helpful. I would start perhaps with maybe the technological utopia where free and unlimited power means that robotics and infinite compute power combine to produce effectively what humans need for zero cost. No more wars, no more famine, no more disease. Then we have to throw in the odd curveball, right? Like, here's my favorite one from last week. Maybe instead an alien may soon be discovered in a giant egg. And maybe the aliens have been here all the time, but only just now the Catholic Church decided to rewrite their doctrine to include aliens. I don't know. These are obviously extreme ends of either the utopian or the dystopian end, but I think have a bit of fun with it. And it pays just to set the scene a little bit so that your kids, using their own brains, will come to their own conclusions over time. In our household, though, we focus on teaching them about things like how to work hard, like work ethic, morality in a world where morality isn't so much of a thing, and knowledge in a world where traditional paths to wealth might not hold true anymore. So, first up, the most commonly quoted household rule we have is work before play. So, this takes the form of doing physical tasks like laundry, cooking, home maintenance, physical work while learning practical skills. That's pretty much what we try to do. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to make sure that they understand the value of their own effort and the right to the reward that it brings. Just to flesh out that example a little bit more about what we do, it's basically 1 hour, that's all it is, 1 hour of work for the preteens and 2 hours of work for the teens. And of course, that all goes to infinity when we want them to leave home. It's kind of like a progressive tax system, except instead of inequality, you get incentives to succeed. Who knew, right? So now by work, I mean everything that's required to run our household. And that's going to be different for different people. But I want them to know how to do things like fold laundry, how to clean the bathrooms properly, right? How to cook and how to cook stuff fairly simply and fairly reliably, how to paint, how to do basic handyman stuff, anything like that. Work is sometimes the result of discipline, though. If they do something wrong, instead of the anger, ideally it's consequence. And hey, it's time for more education, right? And it works. You get stuff done around the house as well. It's a lot easier if you don't want to spring for house cleaner. Next up, morality in the age of inequality. This is a different one, and I haven't really heard this talked about too much. And that's kind of the point. I want to bring to this conversation some of the elements around intergenerational wealth that you might not have heard discussed before. Let's talk about moral education. My observation is that through time, and definitely specifically in the cases that I'm aware of, the levels of morality, however fixed you want to define that, it degrades over time, all in proportion to the increase in wealth inequality. As money centralizes, it seems to draw out the worst in people. And contrary to how most of us would think, morality and money are pretty tightly linked. So if you want to work on one, it pays to touch on the other one as well. So I'm talking about religious attendance here. In fact, religious attendance and wealth appear to be correlated, they're connected. Studies have shown, and they're linked to in the notes, that regular religious attendance is associated with a 9.1% increase in household income and a 16% decrease in welfare participation, increasing the odds of getting married, lowering the rates of psychological distress, and higher levels of psychosocial well-being. Again, you're trying to do this while you're respecting your kid's right to independent thought, right? Like that is absolutely important. But if there's some truth that wealth comprises of the financial, the mental, and the physical, why not the spiritual as well? Why not revisit the benefits of morality that previous generations seem to enjoy? Just a thought. That brings us to how we're helping our kids engage with knowledge in the new world. There's a range of parenting issues that I'm being careful to avoid. Not all of them, of course, but there are some still worthy of mention. Like, when do you allow kids access to the internet, to social media unsupervised? How do you handle the issue of pornography and other controversial topics? Keeping this as closely related to the big idea, though, if we want to build intergenerational wealth, we need to return more towards teaching skills than just providing information. And perhaps, like me, you're from a generation that probably invested in formal education with the view that this was the prerequisite for a good job, for meaningful employment. Skills over information. What do you think, though? And I know this is definitely a bit controversial, but in a world where technology holds all the knowledge chips, will the value of practical skills really be greater than the value that academic knowledge will bring? Should you really be paying for university if that's the case? Now, that's not a simple answer, of course, but one day I think it will be pretty cut and dry. Meanwhile, just to provide a little bit of color, though, and to demonstrate how I work this out at home, allow me to submit the actual list of skills that I taught most of our kids under the age of 14 just this summer. And to avoid getting in trouble by you know who are obviously trying to keep us safe, I will suggest that this list is completely fictitious, of course. This is what we taught our kids this summer: how to drive a tractor and how to operate the potentially lethal thrasher thing that's swinging around on the back to cut very high grass. How to paint, how to water blast without ruining the deck in the process, how to fold laundry just the way that mom likes it, and how to cook the food that you're actually going to eat all day long so that you don't waste our time all the time cooking for you as well as our money. But also other things like how to negotiate, how to start conversations, how to behave with people that you do know and the people that you don't know, how to chew with your mouth closed, simple things like that, right? A focus on, I just think, practical or social skills is by no means going to be a silver bullet protecting them from the evils of tomorrow and giving them the secret keys of success that everybody's been looking for generations. But when knowledge and physical labor become abundant through AI and robotics, practical skills now kind of looks pretty good side by side with learning how to code. Work ethics, a model of morality, and a type of knowledge that digital will eat last. That's what this is all about. It's a diversified approach to ensure that children are most equipped for success while being protected from harm. It's not a complete strategy, of course. It's not meant to be prescriptive in any way for you, but it is working so far for us as a family. By no means is this easy. It is very, very difficult. It requires a lot of time to actually do this genuinely. But if you're able to follow any aspect and get some value out of this, then go for it. Now, on to money education. Fun for the whole family, right? The most common way to refer to family wealth is going to be money. Everything is going to be denominated in money when you're talking about things of financial consequence. So let's be clear about what we're talking about when we're using the word money. Especially, let's just be mindful about how we talk about money in front of our kids. They listen to everything. Remember, they're going to just look at you and not even listen to what you say to them, but they'll probably listen more to what you say to each other on this topic. Money in our house and with our kids is defined as a tool for freedom and something that gives you fun, basically. Fun both now, today, and potentially fun or freedom in the future, too. We started with all of our kids from the age of 2 a habit, and the habit was paying our kids an allowance every week for work that they would do. Obviously, it wasn't a very good deal at the start. We didn't pay them very much either, mind you, but we used physical cash and gave it to them. They then store it in 4 jars, one for spending, one for saving, one for investing, and one for giving to charity. Now, coming from my own perspective here, someone who works with the pre-wealthy and the wealthy alike, I would suggest I'm pretty serious when it comes to seeing my wealth grow in their hands. So the way that I frame the world and the future will need to change over time as they get more mature, as they get more aware, as they grow their own brains. But no education on money is going to be complete without a lesson on how to make it first. And so at the moment, my older boys are working on a new lawn mowing business. This is literally happening at the time of recording. They're working on all the branding. And all of my kids, by the way, since the age of 5, we've taught them how to drive a zero-turn lawnmower, how to operate leaf blowers, and all the other equipment. So why not monetize this? At the very least, it'll give them some spending money, and maybe a strategy here is to wean ourselves off of the obligation of paying them an allowance. But I think it could actually work, and it could potentially do something good. If not, it'll be just another lesson to build upon the confidence that already exists. Why does that confidence exist? Because from the age of 5, my oldest was selling grapefruit that fell off our tree on the street corner. And then he migrated to selling bags of charcoal that we made at home. In the last couple of years, all 3 of our kids worked really hard chopping up the wood from our neighbor's property that fell down in a storm, and we sold really high quality bags of firewood. So they have had business experience and exposure in the past, and I really want to teach them how they are in charge of making their money. They don't have to be a servant to anybody else's goals because they can actually afford to run their own. Now, perhaps maybe I should let them get more into sport. Maybe they are naturally going to move towards this. Obviously, every kid is going to be different, and some of this isn't going to be possible with some kids, but I just think it's the most sensible thing to do when we don't know what the social, economic, or organizational structures will even look like in the future, let alone the jobs that it will all produce. It really helps if you talk as openly and as positively as you can about money in front of your kids. Sharing successes, mistakes in the money space, I think is really important. Most kids start off loving us generally, then they lose a bit of respect for us, and hopefully we pick up that respect later on as they mature and they leave home. But normalizing the money talk now, or this is the way I'm thinking about it anyway, is also a strategy that ensures there's another pathway to connect with your kids, no matter what's going on in their lives. You know that pain is probably going to come along at some stage, and your relationship with them will change in ways that you can't predict. But if there's always something that you can talk to them about, which is connected to their well being in some way, then that's got to be helpful, right? And so normalizing the money talk is as much about retaining a good relationship with your children as it is about building a platform for intergenerational wealth. But that leads us to a concept of family culture and the idea that you can foster or manipulate or create a type of family culture where money is approached with respect. Money is seen as a token of someone's human time and energy, and there's an opportunity cost associated with it. It's a form of scarcity, at least for a little while, and we can use it as a means to an end so long as it doesn't become an end in itself. Lastly, at the core of an intergenerational wealth strategy, the purpose of wealth should be defined. Wealth, for it to genuinely do good in your family, in the generations in the future, needs to be anchored on purpose, I think. Serving a greater objective can help keep the problems of money addiction at bay, and it can just generally help with better financial decisions. It means thinking about charitable organizations that you personally back and believe in, that you would like to see prosper in some way with some of your resource. So for us, the purpose of wealth is not just to flow through our family so that our family becomes more influential over time, like the Rothschild family or something like that. No, this is all about building wealth in the lives of everybody that we possibly can. And by wealth, I mean wealth in the broadest definition you can imagine. Basically, just doing good. But another place where this framework can be defined, and something that I'm working on right now with my wife, is the idea of a family wealth charter. And a family wealth charter can act like a foundational document, if you like, something that articulates a purpose or records the goals that people have agreed upon and the details of some of the strategies suitable for building up and transferring wealth from one generation to the next one. I think of it as allowing your money some sort of outlet to work perpetually for the greater good of people downstream of you in the future. The whole idea here is that you want your wealth to grow and to continue to do good. And ideally, you want to be respecting your own family's history and vision for the future, too. So, to sum it all up, if you want to invest, that's awesome. It'll give you great financial independence, and it'll maybe even give you the ability to give a slight boost to your kids when you pass away, when you're dead and gone. If you would like to start building intergenerational wealth, though, like seriously see something happen which grows from generation to generation, in my experience, there's some real hard work involved. And the best time to start was ages ago, probably. And the second best time is right now. So, on top of the fact that you're probably going to feel awkward with certain parts of this, like that whole morality thing, or maybe teaching them some sort of handyman skills isn't really your gifting. I get it. Not everyone's going to be in the same place and able to do what I've talked about here, or do what I do. And I won't be able to do what other people will be able to do. But anything that you can do to respect your kids' free mind and prepare them for the future is going to be a win. And if you've been watching this on YouTube or listening to me and you didn't have the education or background to get the practical skills or to get the money smarts, well, neither did I. Neither did anybody really at the start. Sometimes you get it because someone helped you and they taught you everything. And other times you just have to do the work, do a bit of digging to get it happening yourself. So I think we can all try, though, to move forward on the financial front. So if you like this type of conversation, make sure that you've liked and subscribed, leave a positive comment where appropriate. And most importantly, if you want an extra boost to help really get started in the area of building wealth, not just for your life, but the lives of your kids, then check out New Wealth Foundations. It's an online personal finance video course that I've created. It covers all the essentials needed that you're going to need anyway to get started in the area of building serious levels of wealth. Link is in the description. Just learn as much as you can, obviously, and hopefully do it openly in front of your kids. Thanks for watching today. Catch you in the next one.
Thanks for joining me today on the Everyday Investor Podcast. I hope you enjoyed that, and if you did, please share me around. For the odd giveaway, invite, and sneak peek, make sure that you've subscribed to the fortnightly newsletter. The link is in the show notes, as well as special referral codes from previous guests on the show. Remember, our show partners Ungaro & Co., Gorilla Technologies, and Icehouse Ventures. Lastly, a final reminder. Please remember this isn't financial advice. If you need that, reach out to me or your current financial advisor. Thanks again for joining me on this one, and we'll catch you next week.
Listen up, my kids, I got the plan to make you wealthy in this modern land. First lesson, work before you play, but know you wanna sleep all day. Hey, I'm the dad trying to teach you how to make it big, but you're just milking the cow. Ooh, it's helpful to get a wife, try to do it right. Hoping wealth will last, gotta fight, fight, fight. I say, learn the value of a buck or two, but they're out there trying to sell their shoe. I talk about earning and wealth, comment and listen some more. You starting a business selling powdered air in a jar. What? I'm the dad with the plans in my head, but you're just making toast in your bed. What? I gotta worky right, try to let these kids see straight. Just trying to pass it on, but oh, I just ate. I'm no fruit of the loom, and I'm low on the time. Teaching all of the lessons on blank stare at a time. Every time I dig deep, they do something wild. I'm dishing out pearls, but taxes all but not filed. I preach the gospel of hard work and grit, but dad will make it big with the meme. I show them the charts, the graphs, and the trend. They're off to a club for weekend friends. So here's to my kids with their oddball dreams. I love them to bits with their quirky schemes. I'll keep on teaching with a laugh and a nod, hoping one day they'll see I'm not just their dad, but their guide to the